My name is Ed Shockley. I was born and raised in Augusta, Georgia. And I joined the Navy the day after Pearl Harbor. There were a number of kids in the neighborhood, all nearly the same age. And I had just turned 17 and Halloween, and on December 8th, I signed up for the Navy. My enlistment actually didn't occur officially until later that month, because all the kids in the neighborhood said they were going to join the Navy the next day when we talked about Pearl Harbor, you know? And I went down and I was the second person in line, and none of my other friends showed up. So I went to boot camp in Norfolk, Virginia. And I was there about a week and taking aptitude tests, and I was called by the chief that was in charge and said, "Shockley, report to this office tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. I went to that office and there was an officer there that talked to me. I thought he was an admiral, but he probably was an ensign. He said, "Son, you're one of the lucky ones. You have been selected to go to Annapolis Preparatory School here in Norfolk, and if you do well, that would be your freshman year. If you do well, you continue on and become an officer." And I said, "Sir, I've been in school all my life, and I joined the Navy to fight the war. Do I have to go to school?" And he said, "No." And so I said, "Well, I prefer not." So they decided I should go to signalman school, visual communication. And so I did that. And later on, I'm still 17 years old. And that was me at 17. As a signalman, we were having trouble with submarines, as you know, and organizing convoys to ship things from the States down to Natal, Brazil, which was the point at which we're building up for the African invasion. And so running back and forth on those routes, our ship, I was assigned to the port director in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. And they'd put one of us signalmen on any ships that couldn't have visual communication, because we had radio silence. And so I was assigned to this one, and it broke down on the way from Guantanamo to Natal. And the convoy goes off and leaves. We were sitting ducks, and on the day before Labor Day in 1942, I was sitting up on the bridge because convoy was gone. I didn't have anybody to communicate with, and ship was sunk, and I sat on a lifeboat for a week in the Caribbean, and we finally, and that's the only thing I had on, were those shorts and undershorts. I'm almost thin enough now that I could get back in them. But the ship that I was on was a small Laker, one that before the war was used across the Great Lakes. But and they were pressing everything into service at that point. But like I say, it was sunk. The submarine came up and talked. There were only 21 people on board the ship, including me. And they had 5 officers and me, and the rest were black Jamaican sailors. And we only had 2 lifeboats, 10 in one, 11 the other, 11-foot boat. And we divided up, and it was, remember this is September in the Caribbean, and the storms and tornadoes and things. But in any case, the sea was quite rough, and the ship went slurp down in a hurry. Because, like I say, it didn't have watertight doors and all that stuff that the Navy ships had. And so we sat on that for a week, and we hit we didn't have any food. But it rained enough, you had plenty of water. We had a small tarp that we collected the water, and for food, we caught flying fish. They come sailing across the boat, and we had that tarp. We'd catch them and cut them up and eat them. And so the black Jamaican crew at night would chant. And I thought to myself, you know, if if they happen to be cannibalistic and decide they're going to eat one of us, I'm the youngest and most tender one on board. We hit the coast of Colombia, and near, I think it was about 40 miles from the little town of Santa Marta, Colombia. And some Indians met us on the beach and wanted to know if we were British or German. I was in the hospital for a month. The big problem was dehydration and sunburn. And I was in the hospital in Santa Marta for a month, and the British consulate made contact with me, and he moved me down to a little town of Barranquilla, Colombia, and then from there he flew me into the west coast of Panama, Balboa, and I picked up a hitchhike on an old 4-piper destroyer going from Balboa back to Guantanamo Bay. I read that the Navy needed pilots, but they had a requirement of 2 years of college and 18 years old. So when I turned 18, I said, I've got to figure some way to get into flight training, because I always wanted to be a Navy pilot. I made a run to New York, and I went down to the Navy recruiting office in New York City and spent 2 days taking tests for the equivalence of 2 years of college, passed the physical, and said I would be selected to go into flight training. we got around to Key West. In Key West, the captain sent a boat ashore to pick up what we call the guard mail orders and stuff. And in it were my orders to report for flight training a day and a half later in Boston from Key West. Well, none of us had any money. We hadn't been anywhere. And the crew took up a collection to get me tickets on a train from Key West up to Boston. I got up there on the old coal burner train. I was dirty. I got in, and the doctor that examined me said, "When's the last time you had a bath?" I told him this story. He said, "Well, go check into this hotel and come back and we'll finish your physical tomorrow," which I did. So I got into flight training, and I spent most of the fighting war while I'm in flight training. I never had gotten a driver's license because we never had a car. And I was carrier qualified before I ever had a driver's license. And the war ended shortly after I got my wings. There are two groups there on this picture. The bottom group were the ones that were our close kids when I joined the Navy, and they were all going to join then, but they didn't join until after I came home on survivor leave. And you know, in newspapers make it sound like he's some kind of a hero or something, and they all joined. And the ones above are my flying buddies in the Navy. At my son's wedding, think of things like D-Day. And I'm afraid I would have been a coward on D-Day. You know, those troops marching into what they did, and it amazes me that they had the courage to do that, you know. And I never had to face that. So it means everything to me. I told you, my father died when I was a baby, and my wife's father kind of adopted me, and he was one of the most patriotic persons I have ever known, and he admired this country. He'd say to my wife when she was little, "The best thing going for you is you're an American." And that's what it means to me. Best thing that ever happened. And you look at the less fortunate people, and you say, "But for the grace of God, there go me," you know. And so you have to appreciate what that flag stands for. It gave us all a chance to live a decent life and enjoy life. And we don't live in fear. You know, it must be tough on those people. What if you lived in Syria, you know?